The concern that I have, of course, is the railways have other commodities to move as well, and there's only so many trains, so many engines, and so much track. So at the end of the day, we have to be competitive in the agricultural sector to make sure we get our products on those lines.
So do you see the backup this year as kind of a one-off, just related to the huge
No,
harvest?
well,
I mean,
yes, yeah, we have a big harvest. There's work being done on the infrastructure, but having said that, I mean, if farmers are going to step up and produce the amounts that are going to be required, as I said, in this growing opportunities throughout the globe, we're going to have to take a long, hard look at our logistics. No doubt about it. We can't have a choke point.
What part of the system? Like more rail cars, more track, more storage capacity?
Well, the only thing that's made the difference now, Rod, is with the wheat board gone, it doesn't come out in dribs and drabs. I talked to a friend of mine who farms big acres, and one guy held 55 Super Bs off the field, another guy took 65 Super Bs off the field. So it's unprecedented. So that's putting loads on the logistics system right at harvest. It's called cash flow. That's a good thing. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that our ports are up to the challenge, that the rails can get there, turn around, get the cars back faster, all those things.
The railway's done a good enough job?
Well, I think it's adequate to this point. I mean, there's always more to be done, and they're the first ones to admit that. Little spills that we see alongside of the track aren't helpful. Anything shuts down the system for a day or two backs the system up for 2 or 3 days.
Any truth to the idea that the increase in crude oil shipments by rail is part of the problem for moving
Well,
grain?
potentially it could be. We haven't seen that yet, but potentially it could be. I'm seeing more loading sites right in my area because I've got both the oil and grain. So, we are seeing a lot more oil tanks on the rails.
Western Grain Elevator Association has said that the new service agreement legislation isn't working for them.
Well, they haven't had to use it yet, so I'm not sure how they're saying it's
say
not working
there's
for
no
them.
point in using it. They say it.
Well, I haven't had that discussion directly with Wade and the crew. I'd be happy to do that, but at the end of the day, as a government, we'll analyze anything. I mean, we're all about the economy. Anything that slows the economy down, we'll take a long, hard look at it. I should say a short, hard look at it. We're not going to take a long time to make any changes. Yeah.
Revenue cap, is that maybe an impediment?
Well, I've never been a cheerleader for the revenue cap. I think in a market-driven economy, that's something that needs to be looked at. When you're looking at competing with oil, with potash, with coal, with timber on the rail lines, and then you've got a cap on one commodity, guess which ones the railways aren't going to haul?
But the shippers say that the railways aren't operating in a competitive market either.
Well, they're not in a competitive market for any commodity they haul, in that regard. So, it's not one size fits all.
UPOV 91, I think it'll be in place by August 1.
Well, that's my timeline. It's not everyone's timeline, but at the end of the day, we have to put that in place if we're going to draw investment here and do seed varieties. There's a growing demand for changes. Warburton's, the big flour mill in England that I was at a month ago or so, are telling me they were a little concerned the first year of the free market, where to deal, how to do it. Now they wouldn't go back. They contracted some 4,000 acres in Saskatchewan of specific varieties they wanted to blend in. So that's the type of situation we're facing in the new world. So, I mean, UPOV 91 is one piece of the puzzle that needs to be put in play.
What would that do for the industry, UPOV 91?
Draw investment here, draw new varieties here. The biggest howl, I guess, would be farmers can't save seed. Well, they can't now if they've signed a contract. It would be the same situation under UPOV 91. There's still the ability to save seed. Just if you signed a contract, you have to honor the contract.
One more question with the logistics, just because it seems like companies are saying there's already kind of a backlog of outstanding cars going forward in the season. I mean, are you concerned that this is going to slow?
Well, we're getting into the winter season too, where you start to see snow through the passes and things slow down. Nobody works as fast at 30 below as they do at 20 above. There are logistical challenges. There's no doubt about it, but it also creates an opportunity for us to reassess the situation. Unless somebody wants to start laying double track all across Canada, which I don't see happening in the near future, we have the system that we have. When I compare it with others around the world, it works as well as can be expected. There's always more things that can be done. I'm loath to add more regulations. That generally tends to slow something down as everybody starts to analyze those regulations.
I was wondering too, on the variety registration, how many submissions have you received?
Well, I don't know the exact number. I know there's been a good cross-section of ideas coming forward. We've been talking about this for about a year or so. We made some initial changes to the CGC. The next steps will be on licensing as opposed to the bonding, putting cash aside. That's not good for business. But there are some insurance-based programs that other countries have looked at that are using that look really good. So we'll analyze those as we move forward.
And on the variety registration, though, how soon do you think that those changes could be implemented?
Well, there are people that say we should have done it 3 years ago, and there's others that say we should never do it. But, at the end of the day, we are a modern country. we are a country that can handle regulations. We're a country that works within the rules around the world, but we're behind in that we haven't implemented UPOV 91. That draws investment to this country. You know, the same people that are saying we don't spend enough on varietal increases and changes are the very same ones that say don't bring in UPOV 91. Well, you can't have one without the other, in my estimation.
I was thinking more about the variety registration system in terms of the overhaul. You've asked the streamlining and so on. Can you?
Well, you know, what we're trying to do is go across government all the way through and look at any regulatory agency and see, is it still hitting its target? How out of date is it? Are there things that we can change so there aren't overlaps and gaps as we're seeing in some of these situations now? There's a fair amount of work on varietal registrations done at CFIA, some done at CGC. Are they better under one umbrella? You know, there's a whole number of different challenges that we've given this group in this room along with others. Okay.
Anything you think Canada could do to improve the flow of grain and other shipments at this point?
Nothing that springs to mind. I don't think there's a silver bullet. I think it's everyone working efficiently. Certainly there was a lot of concern when CN was in a strike position at the end of the month. We looked at that and let them know in no uncertain terms that, you know, that they're a huge economic driver that would not be tolerated. You know, I mean, get back to the bargaining table, bargain in good faith, get the job done. And they've done that, so I give them credit for that.
Western Elevator Association, Wade, has said that the problem is the railways have no incentive to gear up for surge capacity because they know they'll get the grain eventually. In other words, there's no competition driving the railways to invest more money.
Well, that's the duopoly that they talk about, sure. There are other ways. I mean, we're still fully committed to Churchill. The port was oversubscribed this year, above the 5-year average on product that went out through there. That's a good thing. There's more use that we can make of grains going south. I think one of the things that we have to look at in the very short term is more processing done right on the prairies as opposed to shipping out raw commodity. And there's some of those works being looked at as well. So as a government, that's something that we could probably entertain. As far as laying another set of tracks, probably not going to happen in my lifetime.